You're watching Moontower Soccer's Story of the Week, where Landon Cottam and Jeremiah Bentley discuss this week's most important, consequential, and interesting Austin FC news. Jeremiah, you and I were on the Sportico podcast stage at South by Southwest today, and how do you feel about that? I think it was fun, right?
I think it was fun. I think we're both tired now from doing that. Yeah, we were joined by Brian C. Parker. Got out of our comfort zone a little bit and talked more about the Major League Soccer and if its position in the global game and sort of the growth of the sport and of the game in this country in the context of like telling a little bit of the Austin FC story because Austin is a success. My dad was super excited, but mostly because I got to share a green room with Stephen A. Smith, who is his favorite sports media personality, not me. But it's fine. It's cool. It's good. And I think your reflection was that Stephen A. is a lot taller than you expected him to be.
Very tall. Me and Mike were talking about this off air before you joined the call, Jeremiah. And I looked it up and Google says he's 6'1", but you saw that man walk past us, right?
Yeah, he seemed
6'3", right? At least.
I thought he was like 5'7". So like the fact that he was taller than me was what surprised me.
Yeah, I always had the perception that he was not a tall guy on TV. To find out that he would like tower over me is crazy.
Yeah, we stayed around and got to watch some of what he does, and it is a feat to behold. Like, the man just got on stage and held court for an hour before his first guest even came out, which is like, it's not necessarily my favorite kind of content, but the man is very good at it.
They cover every sport.
I have heard that he's not like his like character in real life. Were you able to talk to him at all?
No, he had like a huge entourage with him, and there was like a bunch of people in there. Like the Sportico people were trying to talk to him and stuff, so weren't gonna try to step in there.
It's crazy. I was checking my phone all day and I didn't get asked to be part of your entourage. I'm just I could have kept people from y'all.
They actually told us we were their favorite people because they didn't have to worry about us because we didn't bring anybody or anything for them to have to mess with. All right. Let's get into this week's story of the week. So Austin played to a 2-2 draw at home against St. Louis City. Conceded a very late goal when, for large stretches of the game, it looked like they were going to wrap it up and get the victory. I actually missed this game live and had just a rewatch, which is part of the reason why we have Mike here, because it made me just feel a little more comfortable having two people on the show who saw the game live when I didn't get to do that. So I guess y'all tell me, what was it like in the stadium? I got the buffer of like kind of following along on my phone and then going back and watching, but I can imagine that second goal was pretty heartbreaking inside of Q2.
Yes. I don't have much to say beyond that, but I mean, it was just so close. Although it almost seemed like a point, it seemed like 3 points that Austin maybe didn't deserve to, and the stats will bear this out, right? Like, all the vibes were on her side, but really realistically, after the first 20 minutes or so, like Austin was a little bit under like being assailed, and St. Louis had a lot of the ball and a lot of the offense, and had some lucky bounces to keep the ball out. So to live through all that and then to sort of give it all up at the end and then go out of the withdrawal was very deflating.
Yeah, this felt like a real momentum swingy game live in the stands. That last minute goal really was a gut punch. But even as we were walking out of the stadium, Steph and I were saying to each other, like, that might have been the best we've looked in a long time. And so like there's definitely positives to take out of it. I was actually saying that I was like lamenting coming on because that's like my normal brand of like, you know, there's good things to take out of this, even when sometimes those good things are very few. But like this time I really felt it. And then watching the match again today, I'm ready to double down on that.
And for me, I think the best thing out of it was the resilience, right? That Austin gives the goal on the penalty at like 49, and then 2 minutes later comes back around. And I feel like that was the most encouraging things for Austin to concede, to make it a draw, and then to take the lead again. Because I feel like there's been so much of either concede and hang on and hope for a draw, or concede and like that starts a tidal wave of negativity. And so for Austin to show some resilience and like turn right back around and get another goal was, for me, the most encouraging part of the match.
Yeah,
I think
St. Louis City is a team that plays with a lot of intensity, and Austin came out and matched that for most of the game. I'd say there's times where they got a little overwhelmed by that intensity, but at the first 15 minutes, I thought Austin looked like the better team by far up until that goal and for maybe a few minutes after. And again, we'll get into some of the negative here in a second, but I think Mike is absolutely right that the fight that we saw in the players was positive. And then also in those first 15 minutes, they were just playing soccer. Like they were actually playing the game. And
like our game.
Yeah. It was in the system, but then in those moments where we've often seen them look scared or a little too conservative in certain moments, they were just going for it and trying to play. And I feel like Diego Rubio had a lot to do with that, with the way he was playing in that position. And this is a thing that we didn't talk about. Jeremiah, you and I talked about last week of we don't have anybody who can play that position. A clear omission is Diego Rubio is the closest guy we have to Sebastian Driussi, right? I think we had in our minds like, okay, he's the 9, so it's not the same thing. But this is a thing we talked about when we signed him, is like there might be moments where you would like to play Rubio and another striker, and with Driussi out, this was the opportunity. And I feel like for moments during the game, it worked fairly well.
Yeah, I think I was also really encouraged by the way we came out in the second half. A lot of times, right, Austin will go into the dressing room at the half and then come out, and the opposing team has made changes that we don't counter. But like through the first 35 minutes of that second half, we had more possession than we had in the first half. And so like, not only did we come back out and play our game again, but we were doing it well again, even considering some individual errors that led to that goal, that first penalty goal.
Jeremiah, do you want to run us through some of, I guess, turning to the negative, some of the stats from this game?
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems weird to talk about that and then kind of go through the numbers. So possession, I realized now I wrote Seattle when I meant St. Louis here in these stats, but possession was 60-40 St. Louis. Shots were 17-5, shots on targets 8-2. X-goal, I think Austin had .96, and most of them came from the Cascante header on the second goal. So still, like statistically, it was an underwhelming performance for Austin, despite the fact that the eye check made them look, I think, a lot better than Austin has in the first 2 matches of this season.
And like to that point, right, at the half, possession was 60-40 St. Louis. And then like 75th-ish minute or so, we were looking at a 45% possession for Austin. So like we had clawed back a bunch of that possession before coughing it up again. So like it like, you know, that momentum chart kind of highlights how that match went.
Jeremiah, what are some of the other stories that you wanted to talk about in this game?
Oh, I guess one question was, like, I saw this a lot of criticism, because every time everything goes wrong, there's a lot of criticism online. And I tried to like not read any today before we recorded the live show particularly. But instead of the bunkering and the subs at the end, and to Mike's point about how Austin had started to like make up some ground of possession and sort of blew it all at the end, like, I mean, what do y'all think? What would you do trying to hold on to that lead?
I personally don't have a ton of issue with the subs. I like talking about bunkering. There's a difference in bunkering and getting pinned down. I don't think it was a conscious decision by Austin FC to stay in their own box for most of the last 20 minutes. I think that is a thing that St. Louis did to them. But they made some subs, got some fresh legs on, and started. I think the introduction of Joao Klaus changed the game quite a bit. They kept Adeniran pretty quiet, and then Klaus came on, and they started launching balls at him, and he was able to either bring them down or knock them down onto on running guys, and was really giving the defense a lot of trouble. And then they bring on Ostrak and Alm and some other fresh legs. That's when it started turning. So it was before the substitutions that Austin was pinned back. It's still a problem, but it's a different problem in my mind of Austin letting St. Louis dictate the game like that. But whenever the subs come on, I think the only one that I like, the only thing that I've seen online that I maybe kind of agree with is the argument that why not put Owen at right back instead of Ethan Finley. I get that argument, but you're going to have a tired person somewhere. And Mike, I saw you talking about this online today, that if you watch through that last goal that Austin gave up, Owen was part of the problem on the other side of the ball. And I'd say maybe more of a problem than Ethan Finley was in that moment.
Yeah, Ethan Finley is like 8th and 9th in my list of 9 problems with that play. I kind of broke it down from the point that like Ostrak makes that pass to Totland, right? Or Ostrak receives the pass before the pass to Totland, right? And you see Owen hasn't closed down Ostrak, and so that pass is wide open. Biru lets Totland just kind of wander into free space to receive the ball. And then Heinzike and Hedges don't know who's going to close that down, right? And already we're at 4 problems before the ball ever like even leaves Totland's foot to go toward where poor Ethan Finley is like gassed out of his mind at the end of this game. It just really tough set of play there. Like
It was a team failure, as they say. Well,
yeah.
And the other point I had was like I feel like this was definitely the first game where I noticed the officials being in the way.
Woof.
Like one of them, like a guy got hit on one ball. Like there was like an extra defender a lot of times, and I mean, we haven't talked a lot about other than just the fact that there is officially a lockout and replacement or scab referees calling these games, depending upon what you call them. But would y'all agree that this one seemed like the refs were a bigger factor, just all the way around, negatively than they have been in the past?
For us, yeah, I think this was a tough one. Seeing how upset King Bradley Stuver was about not following the like laws of the game was like, that's not a guy who like reacts like that, right? And so it was, yeah.
It seemed like that ref was trying to say that he hadn't blown the whistle, therefore he was going to let them take that corner again. But it seemed very much like everyone was set and ready to play. And so the argument was like, if it hits the ball, it's a drop ball in that spot to the team that it affected, essentially. But he lets them take the corner again. But yeah, I don't know, man. And then the same guy trips John Gallagher at one point.
It was a great tackle on John Gallagher, to be fair.
Were there other moments that y'all saw in the stadium, or are those kind of the 2 main ones?
I think the thing for me that like really was surprising was how slow to call fouls the ref was. Like there's at one point a challenge in midfield that Austin is awarded a penalty for, or like Austin is awarded the ball after the foul. And at the same time, someone like just destroys AZ Jackson.
Oh, it was Matt Hedges.
Yes.
I see what you're talking about. It's like,
yeah,
like a pink card.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's certainly an orange, right? It was a hard foul. And because the ref was so slow to blow the whistle on the foul that had happened before, he got away with it.
Yeah.
But he probably shouldn't have. Or it wouldn't even have happened if the ref had blown the whistle at the right time instead of being so slow to do so, right? And I think those are the things that, as fans of the game, we probably don't notice as much with replacement refs, but certainly doesn't happen with the best available referee crews.
Yeah. So Jeremiah, you went through some of the stats. Offensive stats still pretty, like offensive output still pretty anemic in open play. But I think another positive here is we've heard Josh Wolf talk about how they brought on a new coach to focus on set pieces. I think this game, we've seen little bits and pieces, but in this game, you could see all of the work that they've put into set pieces. It seemed like every corner, every longer free kick, every throw in, they had some type of proper set piece. It wasn't just like organize and run into the box. It was like very like strategized, organized plays that they were running. And we get 2 goals out of those essentially. And I think that is a positive, that if we're not going to be dangerous offensively, to show that we are consistently being dangerous on these set pieces now, that is a positive we can take away from this game. If you like this video, you can listen to the full episode at moontowersoccer.com or wherever you get your podcasts.